Welcome to another wonderful day of reading and studying the messages of the Book of Mormon with me. Today we are studying Mosiah Chapter 9, and this is a series of around 13 chapters-ish. I think it's chapters 9 through 22, where it's a story within a story. So we're going to start today this wonderful, interesting adventure of a people that in the last chapter, chapter 8, chapter 7 and 8 of Mosiah, Ammon, an explorer, has run across a community of people that are in bondage to Lamanites, and their former brethren of Ammon and Zeniff, King Zeniff. They're both from Zarahemla, but Ammon's a free man and Zeniff is not. His people are in bondage to the Lamanites. So the next 13-ish chapters are where Zeniff is going to tell Ammon how he came to be in bondage to the Lamanites. It's a fascinating tale. It's a cautionary tale. There are many things that we can learn. Jesus Christ values our freedom. He values us to think for ourselves, and he values freedom so that we can choose to worship him. And this is a story of a struggle for freedom. So let's go ahead and get started with the record of Zeniff. Again, Zeniff is this king who is in bondage with his people to the Lamanites. So this set of chapters from 9 to 22, it's an account of his people from the time they left Zarahemla until the time they were delivered out of the hands of the Lamanites. So this chapter 9 is specifically about Zeniff leading a group from Zarahemla to possess the land of Lehi Nephi. The Lamanite king permits them to inherit the land, and then they have war between those two groups of people. So again, Ammon and his brethren, who are the explorers, are hearing this story as they sit down with the king, and the king is saying, let me bring you up to speed on everything that's happened because it's been crazy. And here's the story of how it all went down. All right, so verse 1, I, Zeniff, having been taught in the language of the Nephites, and having had a knowledge of the land of Nephi, or of the land of our fathers' first inheritance, and having been sent as a spy among the Lamanites, that I might spy out their forces, that our army might come upon them and destroy them. But when I saw that which was good among them, I was desirous that they should not be destroyed. So we'll just pause there. Several chapters ago, because we've been reading about the people of Lehi Nephi that are actually in the land of Zarahemla, and it talks about Zeniff, an explorer, going out to see if he can inherit find their previous property and go back and get it back. And that he comes back having lost many of his people, and then he goes back out again and he's not heard from again. So this is that same guy. We're just hearing what actually happened to him. So he wanted to go in with his people and maybe have war with the Lamanites and reclaim their land. But as they're spying, he's realizing, hey, wait, these guys are actually, just nice people. Maybe we shouldn't kill them. Okay, so verse 2, therefore I contended with my brethren in the wilderness, for I would that our ruler should make a treaty with them. But he, being an austere and a bloodthirsty man, commanded that I should be slain. But I was rescued by the shedding of much blood. For father fought against father, and brother against brother, until the greater number of our army was destroyed in the wilderness. And we returned, those of us who were spared, to the land of Zarahemla, to relate the tale to their wives and their children. So they disagreed about whether to go into the land of the Lamanites and to make a treaty, or whether to fight. And so they had a war until many of them died. Verse 3, and yet I, being overzealous to inherit the land of our fathers, collected as many as were desirous to go up to possess the land, and started again on our journey into the wilderness to go up to the land. But we were smitten with famine and with sore afflictions, for we were slow to remember the Lord our God. Nevertheless, after many days of wandering in the wilderness, we pitched our tents in the place where our brethren were slain, which was near to the land of our fathers. And it came to pass, I went again with 4 of my men into the city and in unto the king, that I might know of the disposition of the king, that I might know if I might go in with my people and possess the land in peace. And I went in unto the king, and he covenanted with me that I might possess the land of Lehi Nephi and the land of Shiloh. And he also commanded that his people should depart out of the land, and I and my people went into the land that we might possess it. So might we say, so far so good. This seems like it's working out really well. Instead of having to fight, indeed, these people are pretty darn nice. They're just agreeing, yep, we're not going to fight, either of us. You can go ahead and take this property, and we'll, our people will withdraw from that, and we'll all be getting along. And we began to build buildings and to repair the walls of the city, yea, even the walls of the city of Nephi and the city of Shiloh. And we began to till the ground, yea, even with all manner of seeds, with seeds of corn, and with wheat, and with barley, and with nees, and with sheam. I don't know what nees and sheam are, but obviously it's some kind of seed. And with seeds of all manner of fruits, and we did multiply and prosper in the land. And now it was the cunning and the craftiness of the king of Laman to bring my people into bondage, and he yielded up the land that we might possess it. Therefore it came to pass that after we had dwelt in the land for the space of 12 years, that the king Laman began to grow uneasy, lest by any means my people should wax strong in the land, that they could not overpower them and bring them into bondage. Now they were a lazy and an idolatrous people. Therefore they were desirous to bring us into bondage, that they might glut themselves with the labors of our hands, that they might feast themselves upon the flocks of our fields. So it reminds me a little bit of the story of the people of Israel when they came into Egypt for relief from famine. They eventually began to multiply and get really high population, and Pharaoh did not like that they were becoming so powerful, and he brought them into bondage. It's similar here, but it sounds like the king of the Lamanites already wanted to bring them into bondage. He was just waiting for the right time, but he was getting nervous because they were getting quite populous, so he hit the go button and he's like, okay, we need to bring them into bondage now. Therefore it came to pass that King Laman began to stir up his people, that they should contend with my people. Therefore there began to be wars and contentions in the land. So whatever it is that he's doing, he's sowing the seeds, King Laman sowing the seeds of discord among his people, and basically telling them in some way that it's okay to go take what you want from these people of Nephi. Verse 14, for in the 13th year of the reign of the land of Nephi, of my reign in the land of Nephi, away on the south of the land of Shiloh, when my people were watering and feeding their flocks and tilling their lands, a numerous host of Lamanites came upon them and began to slay them and take of their flocks and the corn of their fields. Yea, and it came to pass that they fled, all that were not overtaken, even into the city of Nephi, and did call upon me for protection. And it came to pass that I did arm them with bows and with arrows, with swords, and with scimitars, and with clubs, and with slings, and all manner of weapons that we could invent. And I and my people did go forth against the Lamanites to battle. Yea, in the strength of the Lord did we go forth to battle against the Lamanites. For I and my people did cry mightily unto the Lord, that he would deliver us out of the hands of our enemies. For we were awakened to a remembrance of the deliverance of our fathers. So I'm not sure which specific stories they're remembering about the deliverance of their fathers. It could have been Moses and the children of Israel. It could have been other times that the Nephites were delivered from the Lamanites initially. But they're remembering, hey, God has helped us in the past. He will help us again. And that is something that we can remember too, because maybe we're not in the same kind of war that these people are in, but we have different times in our life where we are trapped or in some kind of bondage, in some kind of situation, and God can deliver us. We can cry to him in prayer and in faith that he will deliver us from those traps that we're in our life, whether it's addiction or whether it's some serious relationship problems or whether poverty, something that we are struggling under so hard and we don't know a way out. We can pray in earnestness and he can help us know the roadmap of what to do, who to turn to, who to talk to, what to try first. And meanwhile, he can calm our hearts and give us strength as we take those steps to be delivered in the struggles in our life. Verse 18, God did hear our cries and he did answer our prayers, and we did go forth in his might. And that can happen for us too. He will hear our cries in those things that we are in bondage to, and we can go forth in his might with faith that we can fight the battles in our lives. Yea, we did go forth against the Lamanites, and in one day and a night we did slay 3,043. We did slay them even until we had driven them out of our land. And I myself with my own hands did help to bury the dead. And behold, to our great sorrow and lamentation, 279 of our brethren were slain. So there's lots of wonderful messages in this chapter. And the thing about reading scripture in general, but I'm reading the Book of Mormon, so we'll talk about the Book of Mormon, is to come to your reading with a question, something that you need help with in your life. And then things in that chapter will stand out that maybe relate to what you're going through. So the things that stand out to me as I'm reading may not be the same things that'll stand out to you if you're just kind of like reading it and pondering it prayerfully. But nonetheless, I'm the one talking, so I'll tell you what stood out to me. Really stands out to me that we have these periods of bondage in our life, of whatever situation feels like we're trapped in, we're smothered, there's no way out, we can't see, we're afraid, the world's against us. We can pray for God's help. He can speak peace to our soul, and He can deliver us. Also, it is a truth that, as charitable and Christ-like and kind as we are, which is critical if we want to follow Christ, we also do need to be aware, to be prepared that not everyone is lovey-dovey. Not everybody wants to be nice and play fair. That, the king of the Lamanites was stirring up his people against the people of Zeniff, and they started attacking them. And so the people of Zeniff needed to be prepared to defensively, protect their people and their property. And in a way, we need to be able to do the same thing in a Christ-like way. We never are attackers. But if someone were to do something dangerous or harmful to us, we need to be able to take care of our own. We need to be, as it says in the Bible, wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. So we can be kind and loving, but to be wise too, to not believe everyone's always going to be nice. Okay, that is just a couple of thoughts that jump out at me. But again, if you're reading it, looking, especially praying for the Spirit to guide you, you're going to see other things in here, because Scripture is so awesome as it embeds truths within a story. So it's not just a bullet point list of correct principles. Within stories, there are many correct principles that can flower open to you if you're looking for answers to specific questions. All right, I'm excited to find out what happens next in the story of Zeniff, and I'll see you next time.